Welcome, everybody. My name is Mary Beth Brooks, and I'm the director of the Arkansas Small Business and Technology Development Center at the University of Arkansas. Thanks so much for joining us today to learn all about credit card surcharging and if it's right for your business. ASBTDC, that's where I'm the director of the University of Arkansas. ASBTDC, we provide complimentary consulting services to small businesses in Northwest Arkansas. There are ASBTDC offices across the state. We provide support to all stages of entrepreneurship, from startups to existing businesses, looking to expand to long-term businesses just needing help with cash flow and everything in between, including entrepreneurs who are buying and selling a business. Our clients look to us for strategy, business planning, market research, intricate financial projections, loan package prep, marketing guidance, and sometimes just they need somebody here to listen. So we're here to help. On this next slide, you're going to see all of our contact information. Check out our website at sbtdc.uark.edu. You can call us, and several folks today are not necessarily clients of ASBTDC, so please reach out if you're interested in any of our free services. Our session today is being recorded so that other businesses who weren't able to attend can learn. We'll be monitoring questions in the chat only today, and we'll address them in the Q&A session at the end of the presentation. We will send you copies of the slide deck, so no worries about that. You don't have to copy and paste. We'll send you a copy of the slide deck, plus the recording will be on our website by tomorrow. Today, I'm super excited to introduce you to Keaton Smith with First Horizon Bank. Many in Northwest Arkansas know Keaton. But it's really a toss-up if they know him from being an exceptional banker or his involvement in K through 12 education on the Fayetteville School Board or his unwavering commitment to affordable housing in our area. However you might know him, we're lucky to have him on our call today. Keaton and I get together routinely, and we're always just talking about ways that issues that small businesses have, how we can help them, and the topic of credit card surcharging just comes up over and over. So, and especially a lot of our clients in the restaurant businesses. So we thought it was best to learn it from experts like Fiserv, since they specialize in payment solutions. So Keaton, let me turn it over to you.
Thank you so much, Mary Beth. As you said, my name is Keaton Smith, and I'm a commercial relationship manager based here in Fayetteville. I'm with First Horizon Bank, and we have offices in both Fayetteville and Bentonville. We're a publicly traded bank based in Memphis, Tennessee, and we're super excited to be with you all today. We want to thank everyone, each and every person who's joined the webinar. We know your time is valuable, and our goal is to provide you timely and valuable information that helps you grow and sustain your business. So with that, over the last couple of years, we've heard from a lot of clients and prospects about how they're interested in credit card surcharging, and this is a new opportunity. You couldn't always do this. This is a relatively new option for businesses. In particular, we've heard from restaurants, retail, healthcare, coffee shops, breweries, folks that have a lot of credit card volume and want to be able to absorb some of those credit card processing costs with a surcharge. And we've also heard from more B2B customers that are doing larger orders for businesses who maybe want to present the option. They want to present an option to pay with credit card and also pay a surcharge fee, or do an electronic payment for no charge. And it's really a strategy to drive your customers towards an ACH or an electronic payment. So I'm really excited to be joined here today by the experts. Fiserv is the largest credit card processor in the world, and we're excited to partner with them to offer us a full suite of digital payment options for our clients. And here with us today is Matt Bonds with Fiserv. So Matt, I'll hand it over to you.
Awesome. Thanks, Keaton. I'll also be joined by my colleague, Kori Hogeboomof. She's also one of our specialists in the surcharge space. So you'll hear from her as well. But yeah, so good morning and Happy New Year to everyone. As Keaton mentioned, my name is Matt Bonds. I'm a sales executive on our Fiserv team, and we're as Keaton mentioned, we're a digital payments company. We're a fintech, and some of you may know us by our former name of First Data. But hopefully I can meet various people on this call at some point. So I'm looking forward to that. So what we do, we partner with people like Mary Beth and Keaton to provide solutions to the market, to talk with business owners and help them both operate their business and in turn also help them grow their business. Okay. So let's get to surcharging. So in my 14 years in the payment space, I think now more than ever, there's a consistent story that we hear from our business owners. It is, hey Matt, I love what I do, but my costs are skyrocketing, whether it's the cost of product, cost of food, labor, insurance, etc. And I'm finding it more and more difficult to be as profitable as I want or as I need to be. And so, this leads us down the path to discuss how we at Fiserv can help. And so maybe you yourself are in a similar position, right? Trying to decide if surcharging is the right move for your business, and you want to know what details are around it, how it works, how to do it properly, and how to do it in accordance with the rules and regulations. And so that's what we're here for today. So for the next 15 or 20 minutes, we're going to discuss the fundamentals of surcharging, how to do so in a way that's, that again, you're not going to subject yourself to fines. So we hope you find this informative and put you in a position to be able to make an educated decision for your business to see if it's right for you. Okay. And just keep in mind, again, we're going to have our contact information on here twice. So again, we'll send this out to everyone, as well as Mary Beth mentioned, it'll be posted online. So if you need to reach out to us directly to discuss your particular situation, obviously we're more than willing to do so. And also, I want to make a quick note here too. What we're discussing today is Fiserv. This is our surcharge program. There's going to be a lot of consistencies across other processors, but this is our interpretation of the rules and regulations that are out there. As always, especially as this deck or this presentation is disseminated across other states, you always want to adhere to the particular state laws that would apply to you. But yeah, let's jump into it. So the outline that we're going to go through today, of course, is defining what exactly surcharging is. What do I need to consider when deciding if surcharging is the right fit for my business? What requirements am I responsible for as the merchant? And once implemented, how does it exactly work? All right. So let's define exactly what surcharge is. There's a lot of misinformation out there. So let's just start with the basics here. So the surcharge allows merchants to add a % checkout fee to a credit card transaction that is paid by the end consumer to help cover the merchant's credit card processing fees. Okay, it's available to all U.S. merchants. The standard surcharge rate is capped at 3%, and it is applied to Visa, MasterCard, Discover, and American Express OptBlue eligible credit card transactions. We'll get into that a little bit more here in just a little bit. And again, the surcharging is not a program that is going to 100% eliminate all of your processing fees. It is put in position to help cover some of your processing fees. Okay. Some other notes that I think that's important to mention on the front end here, and some important information that's worth sharing. So again, it's a move to help cover your cost. It is not a profit mechanism. Okay, this is not something that you're allowed to profit from. And at Fiserv, I think this is interesting that it's worth sharing. Fiserv, we have not noticed a significant shift in consumer behavior. So where we have seen surcharging implemented, we have not seen a drastic shift to debit card payments, which are not eligible for surcharge. And we'll get into that more in just a little bit, as well as a movement to cash. So that was worth sharing. We do have over 30,000 merchants on our surcharge program. And of those 30,000 merchants, 95% are still doing surcharging. So 5%, of course, have stopped. that could be for various reasons, but a vast majority, as you can see here, have continued with the program. So some clients that I talk to say, hey, Matt, I'm already doing surcharging. I'm kind of doing it on my own manually. And I think that's important for a conversation for us to have, because if you're not doing it in accordance to what is laid out there by the state laws and as well as the card brand rules, you could be opening yourself up to a fine or a penalty. And those penalties could reach up to $25,000 or more, especially if you are a repeat offender. Okay. So merchant considerations. So as we're talking with our clients about surcharging, ultimately it's your decision, and if it's the right move for your business. But we do want to have a conversation around various topics as you see here, with regards to whether or not it's the right fit for your business. And so these are a few different topics that we want to go through, and that we go through with our existing clients who are considered surcharging. So there are some state restrictions. I know most on this call are probably in Arkansas, but you might, have an additional location in one of these other states or territories, or you might know someone that's in one of these states. So just know that for merchant locations in Connecticut, Massachusetts, and Puerto Rico, those states do not allow surcharging. Okay. On a related note, even in Arkansas, card not present transactions, so let's say they're paying online or over the phone, the card holders who has a billing address from one of those states or territories, they are also not eligible for surcharge. Okay. Probably the number one consideration that I think you have to consider, of course, is customer sensitivity, right? Understand the impact that it could have based on on the customer experience. I think that's a huge consideration that you want to be prepared for, because I don't think anyone, shows up to a business and is excited to pay a surcharge. So just be prepared to have that conversation, or at least to consider on the front end if this is the right move for your business. Okay. So with regards to American Express, their OptBlue program is eligible for surcharge. If you happen to be processing directly with American Express, at least for our clients, we ask that they have that conversation directly with their American Express rep or American Express, to kind of give them the heads up, this is your intention, and to reach an agreement with them to do so. And again, that's just for American Express Direct. If you're on the American Express OptBlue program, you are good to go. If you're not sure which program you're on, just reach out to your processor and they will let you know. Okay. As I mentioned earlier, surcharge can only be applied to eligible credit card transactions. Okay. It is not eligible for debit card. And it doesn't matter how that debit card is presented. Okay. It doesn't matter if they're signing for the transaction or they are entering their PIN number. It doesn't matter. It's based on the card number or BIN number. The card will not be surcharged if it is a debit card transaction. So you as the merchant would be responsible for that transaction cost. And it's also done at the merchant ID level. Okay. So you can't, if you have surcharge in your account, you can't dictate, okay, I'm going to apply surcharge on this particular customer, but not this other one. If you have surcharge enabled, it is going to be applied at every single surcharge eligible transaction. Okay. So I thought that was worth noting as well. So I think this is important as well. There's requirements that are in place once you have surcharge enabled. Okay, the card brands have certain requirements once you decide to go down this path. There's a registration process, and we at Fiserv, we take care of that for our clients. As I mentioned earlier, it's at the merchant account level. It would be across all of your devices or point of sales. You cannot place, you can't do favoritism or anything like that. You can't pick and choose who it is applied to. It's just based on whether or not the card is eligible to be surcharged or not. Okay. You see highlighted here, the merchant, you are responsible for displaying clear and prominent disclosure of the surcharge rate. And that's both at the point of entry, so maybe the front door, as well as the point of sale. Okay. And there's restrictions. We mentioned about the debit card restriction. They're not eligible. about the American Express. Again, if you're working directly with American Express and they're processing those transactions directly, you would want to reach out to them. And if you're on the OptiBlue program, you are all set. As we mentioned earlier, too, locations in Connecticut, Massachusetts, and Puerto Rico are not allowed to do surcharging for face-to-face transactions. And but if you do have multiple locations, let's say you had you had a location in Arkansas and a location in Massachusetts, you can still implement surcharging in Arkansas, but of course the Massachusetts location you would not. All right. Okay, so there's also requirements that are listed on the receipt, and you see this is just a Fiserv example. Again, if you already are doing surcharging through a different processor, your receipts might look a little bit different, but this is what ours look like. So you'll notice on the receipt, the dollar amount as well as the percentage, of course, must be disclosed. Okay, and again, this is the requirement of the merchant to make sure that this is enabled. Side note, you'll also notice in this example that it's at the subtotal level. Okay, you will not see the tip will not be surcharged. Okay, so again, this is just a visual of a Fiserv transaction receipt. If you're using it through a different processor, it might look a little bit different. Okay. Since it is your responsibility as the merchant to display the signage, this is just some generic wording that we do recommend. Again, always adhere to the state requirements wherever you may be, but you'll see here the box there in the middle is the kind of the generic language that we do recommend. We do impose a surcharge of 3% when paying with a credit card, and it does disclose the fact that this is not in excess, or this is not a profit thing for the business. I think that's something from the consumer. They think, hey, this business owner is just trying to make more money off of me. No, this is just a way to help cover the cost. This is not in excess of our the cost of the transaction that we have to pay, right? All right, so slide 11. Want to give you, again, this is kind of an easy math example of how the math works, right? 3% would be the surcharge on a $100 transaction. Of course, that 3%, excuse me, that 3% does equate to a $3 surcharge dollar amount. So the card holder would be responsible for paying the 103. Okay. So that 103, at least on the Fiserv side, we will fund the full $103 to their checking account. And whether they are responsible for paying their fees on a daily or monthly basis, of course, we will then deduct that surcharge amount from their checking account. Okay. On the Fiserv statement, this is what our clients see. It's very nice and clean. You can see exactly what happened. So in this particular example, the total fees for the month all in was $2,645.86. The surcharge collected was $2,013.34. So the difference would be most likely debit card transactions or maybe credit card transactions that were not eligible for surcharge. So again, very nice and clean. On our monthly statement, you can see how much surcharging did save your business. Okay. I think this is interesting too, and I think a lot of this, Keaton mentioned this earlier. A few years ago, I think especially when COVID hit, I think is kind of when surcharging especially took off, right? And I think the restaurant industry, as you see here, at least for our Fiserv clients, the restaurant industry is leading the pack certainly in adopting surcharge. But also you'll see some other industries here that may or may not surprise you. Okay, so whether it's over the phone or catalog transactions, auto repair, auto sales, specialty retail. I had some work done in my house recently, and the contractor also applied a surcharge in that transaction. So again, I think for a lot of our people on this phone that are in the restaurant industry, certainly your industry has adapted to the surcharging space here. So for this next slide, again, we want to clear up some of the misinformation. I think this is where a lot of the confusion takes place. Because our clients here, hey Matt, I've heard about surcharging, I've heard about cash discount, convenience fee, service fee, what have you. What's the difference, right? So I want to bring in my esteemed colleague Kori here to kind of go through the differences and provide some clarification on the differences between these programs. So Kori, I will hand it off to you.
Thank you, Matt. Hi, everyone. So you've heard a lot about surcharge in the past couple of slides, and this really presents kind of a side-by-side comparison of the many fees that you could charge or may be eligible for out in the industry. It's really just these. There's also another one that is considered dual cash or dual adjustment. That's a new terminology, but from a card brand perspective, they fit into one of these four categories. So surcharging, and there's very unique differences for each of these. The one I'm going to skip over to the far right because that's probably the simplest to maybe include or exclude certain businesses. So the service fee is kind of a combination of the surcharging convenience fees. It is available only for government and education merchants. So if you do not fall into a government or education merchant category code, then you would not be eligible for this. But basically the service fee is a fee that can be applied on card present and card not present, and credit and debit transactions. So it's kind of the best of all worlds put together. But again, it's only for a very specific vertical market. Surcharge is available to all markets. There are no exceptions. However, as I mentioned, the government and education wouldn't make sense for if you are in that category to choose surcharge. Surcharge is credit card transactions only, and it can be applied to card present and card not present. There are very specific rules, as Matt had pointed out, regarding surcharge. So that's the first category. Cash discount is kind of a sister program to surcharge, but the difference is that when a cash discount program is compliant, a consumer will have a discount at the point of sale. The biggest difference between surcharge and cash discount is that surcharge is always going to be a markup at the point of sale. So anytime that a fee is assessed that's related to credit card processing, it would be considered surcharge. And cash discount is anytime that a consumer pays with cash, then that price at the point of sale will be marked down. Now, one thing I want to point out here that the card brands have seen and are very aggressively acting on are the non-compliant programs out there. One of the things that they've seen is that many merchants are implying to their consumers that they are implementing a cash discount program. But what's happening is that they will, let's use the $100 example. They will have a $100 sale. They'll mark it up at the point of sale. Let's say they add a 3% or 4% fee. And then if the consumer is paying in cash, they'll deduct that 4%. So that is considered not compliant because regardless of whether or not the end result is that they're coming back to that $100 because of the discount, the merchant is still marking up that transaction at the point of sale. That is considered a surcharge. So regardless of what the end amount is, anytime that a fee is added, it's considered a surcharge. So just be aware of that. And then convenience fee is really meant, it's not meant for a merchant to use as an offset for their card processing fees. Convenience fee is when a merchant is offering a convenient payment channel to your consumers who are able to pay in a non-face-to-face environment, but you would also have to have that primary face-to-face payment method available to consumers to avoid the fee. So again, convenience fee, it's very literal, right? So if you are paying your bill and you want to pay it online or in a non-face-to-face environment, that's a convenience for you to stay at home or throw something in the mail or pay online. So that's a convenience that can be applied a fee for the convenience of you paying in that non-face-to-face payment method. But again, the merchant has to have a primary face-to-face payment channel for you, the consumer, to avoid paying that fee. And so that can be on card not, the convenience fee is only on card not present transactions. So there are very different programs out there. They are all mutually exclusive. So if a merchant chooses surcharge, then you would not be able to apply cash discount or convenience fees and vice versa. So hopefully this matrix highlights some of the differences. This is very comprehensive. in terms of adapting to all of the card brand rules. But hopefully this serves as a helpful tool. Thank you, Matt.
Perfect. No, thank you, Kori. All right. So yeah, we want to open up to Q&A. And again, we hope this, we don't want this to be persuasive, right? We're not here to say that surcharging is 100% the right fit for your particular business, right? We want this to be informative. We hope it has been, to understand what exactly surcharge is, how it works, what are the rules and regulations around it. So you can, have these, conversations, and, figure out if it's the right fit for your business. Because again, there's so much misinformation that's out there. And so we want to be here as a resource for you. So with that said, I'll open it back up to, or send it back over to Mary Beth, as well as Keaton, if we have some questions that Kori, or myself can answer.
I know one of my questions that I've received from folks is, you got, like, if either you guys at Fiserv or whomever is my processor, they take care of a lot of that, right? I have to make sure I'm responding to everything and doing what's required, but you guys kind of, whoever the processor is, be it Fiserv or someone else, helps through that conversation, right? It's not like if I own a restaurant and I have some server out there trying to decide if somebody's from,
Right.
Puerto Rico or from Massachusetts. So just
Right.
making sure because that question has come up with me several times.
No,
Am I correct with that statement?
100%, right? So if we have a client on our surcharge program, it's basically automated, right? So we know based on the card number a lot of different things, right? And so we know the address that's assigned to that card. We know if that card is a credit card or debit card. So it's not like any of our clients would ever be in a situation where they would have to ask that card holder, hey, do you happen to be from, Connecticut, Massachusetts, or Puerto Rico if I'm taking this payment over the phone? Or I can't really tell if this is a debit or credit card, right? So it's completely automated. And so, yeah, that's not a conversation that the merchant would have to have with the card holder. It's a good question.
One other quick question is, like, locally, I have seen a couple of businesses who have, because I maybe dine there routinely, their signage doesn't necessarily state everything that you're recommended or the required signage. What was interesting to me with one of them in particular was that they just said there will be a credit card surcharge. But I felt like, and granted, maybe that's because I'm an old banker and I clearly know the difference of a debit card and a credit card, but it would probably alleviate some of those concerns if they definitely list on there debit card transactions are not applicable to this. But I mean, I even took a picture of it one time because I was so astonished, because I guarantee that would save a lot of conversations. My next question is that I have heard from several of my clients is education for for wait staff, for people who are talking and those kind of things, and how to help them if they implement a surcharge. How is it I can have my wait staff or my bartender or my whomever appropriately handle those responses to people to explain it?
Right. So, I think that goes to, having these conversations and making sure that customer sensitivity, I think, is a big one, right? And it's not always, the business owner or the restaurant manager who's having that conversations. It might be, the college kid who's your bartender, right? And so I think it's important to kind of arm them with information. And again, make sure the customer knows, we're not making a profit off of this. We are not, we are giving you the option, to your point you made earlier, Mary Beth, we are giving you the option to pay with a debit card, or of course cash, if you accept cash. So you're not subject to surcharge. So I think it's important to give options, and you referenced that with regards to the disclosure, and that's, in my opinion. And again, I can't speak to everyone on this call with regards to what you have set up with your existing processor. But one of the things is, if they are switching, let's say they were going to pay with a credit card and now they're going to pay with a debit card, that debit card cost almost always is going to be less than the cost that, than the credit card was. That's still a good change from perhaps what they would have paid with and you didn't prior to surcharging. But yeah, I think it's important to give the staff that information so they know how to have that conversation in a succinct manner where it's going to come across the right way to the consumer, and so they understand why the surcharging is in place and give them options to not have to pay that surcharging rate. Kori, I don't know if you had anything you wanted to add to that, but just wanted to see if you had anything.
Yeah, no, I think you covered everything. It's really basically the card brands they need to make sure, and they're very actively monitoring a lot of the disclosure and signage out there to ensure that it's compliant. They've become very aggressive with their actions, but they want to make sure that their consumers, their card holders, are not surprised at the point of sale. So they want to make sure that in every case when a merchant is surcharging, that the consumer is fully aware that they will be surcharged on the credit card transaction, and that if they don't want to accept the surcharge, they can pay with another form.
Right.
Hey, Kori, will you do me a favor and start at the top of the chat where we have had several questions submitted and kind of roll through those for us?
Sure. So we did have, I tried to respond to some of them. There was one that said, could a business with multiple locations choose to test surcharging by implementing at a single location first? Matt, do you want to take that? Or do you want me to?
Yeah, go for it. Go for it.
Okay. So the answer is yes, they can test it out. So the good thing about both the registration with the card brands and the program, at least with Fiserv, again, Matt and I are representing the Fiserv program. You can test out the waters with surcharging by location or by merchant ID. So a merchant ID or location, if that's by location, can be set up with surcharge. And let's say you have 2 locations, the other one doesn't necessarily have to be set up with surcharging if you want to test the sensitivity to your customer base or how it's working for your business. So the answer is yes. The only restriction is that within that one location that is set up for surcharge, you cannot selectively apply surcharge. Again, back to Matt's comment about preferential treatment. So there should be no discrimination from a cardholder standpoint as to who the merchant is surcharging or not surcharging. The only discrimination can be against debit cards versus credit cards. The next one, I think, Mary Beth, I don't know, the processor takes care of everything as far as knowing if credit card versus debit card, if in an ineligible state. I think you asked that and Matt answered that one.
Yes.
We have another question. I want to make sure I understand that we have a business who mentioned that every credit card payment, or every payment, sorry, made with a credit card will have a surcharge of 3%. Based on your comments, if the clients use a debit card, they should not have a surcharge and it's illegal. So I did respond to that, and the answer is correct. Surcharge can never be assessed on debit cards, and that is against card brand rules to surcharge on debit. So surcharge is only available and should only be applied on credit card transactions. And again, just to reiterate Matt's point earlier, credit card transactions are identified by the card bin range. It has nothing to do with what might be presented on the face of the card or how a consumer selects a prompt at the point of sale. So if a credit card is selected, or I'm sorry, if a debit card is presented to the merchant and the consumer selects credit at the point of sale, that doesn't force the transaction to become a credit card and be eligible for surcharge. The card itself is the sole identifier, and it's through the what we call global bin range that is managed and maintained by the issuing banks. So the card bin range is what determines surcharge eligibility or not. The next question is, do I need to set this up with my processor? So that answer is yes. You should contact your processor to ensure that if you are set up with surcharge, that you have a compliant solution.
Adding to that, do all processors offer it, or are there some? There was a question in here about Square.
So there are some processors that don't offer surcharge. And the reason being that surcharge has very, very specific rules from both a card brand perspective and a state perspective. So in all cases, we represent, our program is compliant to the card brand rules, as well as our interpretation of certain state rules. We would always defer you to your own legal counsel to determine what is appropriate or not based on your business location and business setup. Let's see. I'm just reading through here. I've read a few minutes. Does Fiserv offer a service that works with other point of sale systems companies to handle the surcharging process, or does your service only work with your in-house point of sale system? The answer to that is yes. We do support other point of sale solutions, but the point of sale solution must be certified to the Fiserv surcharge specification. So we do have the flexibility. It is not just a Clover driven product. Obviously, we represent the Clover product because we know and have built out the surcharge program with the functionalities to support surcharging in a compliant fashion. So we have the receipt requirements, we have the disclosure requirements on screens and receipts, but we do make available the ability, if you are working with another point of sale system, that if that point of sale system is compliant or certified with our surcharge spec, then yes, you can be set up with that and use your point of sale system. Okay, we answered that one. I think that was
So if you'll look at one of the questions, one arrived a few minutes late.
Yep.
Does Fiserv offer a service? Okay.
That one
And then she specifically was talking about Toast. I just wanted to, and then we have some Toast questions and some Square questions.
So Toast, I don't believe has certified to Fiserv spec. So I don't believe that we would be able to support that because we don't have them as listed as certified. So they would need to go through the certification process in order for you to be able to use the Toast point of sale solution and settle with Fiserv.
Okay.
But I think Toast is a standalone. Matt, I don't know if you can provide any commentary on that. I don't know if we support the Toast product.
So for most Toast clients, you're right. They have to use the Toast, the processing in-house with Toast. There have been some changes here recently that Toast has opened up to some of their larger enterprise level clients. So again, maybe reach out to us separately to see if we have some flexibility there. But there has been some movement in a positive direction with regards to flexibility with regards to Toast. So again, I expect more updates soon, but right now for most Toast clients, you would be limited to just using the Toast processing as well.
Matt and Kori, could you answer the same question for Square? I think you touched on it earlier, but just to clarify, sort of the same, does Square offer surcharging themselves? Can Fiserv surcharge using Square POS? The same sort of question.
Yeah, Kori, I don't know. Do you know if Square does surcharging on their side? I know we can't integrate with Square.
Yeah.
So I know that for sure, but I don't think that Square does surcharging.
No, they have chosen to not support the surcharging program. So to my knowledge, they do not support any surcharging on their products.
Right.
And if you use a Square product, it wouldn't be compatible with the Fiserv system.
Right.
And I just want to, there was one question that came in, what does Fiserv charge for their services? So without getting into specific cost, because every merchant is different, right? But the surcharge program is really a pricing program. And we say that because one of the requirements with the card brands is that, as Matt pointed out quite a few times, you as the merchant cannot profit from surcharge. So given that requirement, we need to look at surcharging. And it comes back to one of the slides in the deck that lay out side by side. If you're collecting $3 in surcharge, we need to make sure that we're collecting $3 from you as your credit card processing fees. So in order to do that, we look at the surcharge program as a pricing program. So if you're surcharging at 3%, for example, then your discount rate for credit card transactions would be 2.9126%. Now, there's variations out there, so that's not a set, it's other processors may look at that differently, but that basically allows us to say whatever you bring in from a surcharge perspective, you're being charged and you're meeting that requirement of not profiting 100% of the time. And then separately, debit transactions would be charged a separate fee. So that hopefully answers a little bit. Don't know if we can really go into every cost, but that highlights what the the essential credit card versus debit card fees would be.
One of the questions early, or that was submitted actually prior to our webinar today, was how does implementing a credit card surcharge fee impact consumer behavior and purchasing decisions? Matt went through this a bit, and I feel like in that it was if 95% of your 30,000 merchants are still implementing it, then obviously it hasn't had enough of an uproar to cause a problem. But I feel like, as a consultant perspective, I feel like as long as you understand and are able to effectively communicate what is going on and being transparent about it, I think the main key is that this is not an additional revenue stream for us. We're trying to recoup, which is what Matt was saying. But I feel like, and then making sure that that whoever is collecting that and who's going to be faced with those questions, that they are able to appropriately respond and it not just be a blank look on their face.
Right. And in case in point, I mean, I've got a client, they have 2 locations, and he wanted to implement surcharging on one to test it out. So that's what we did. And, he said, because I would check with him periodically, and he said, for the first couple of weeks, it wasn't rough, but he was just obviously having to have conversations with his clients that he wasn't having before. But he said, then once he got through those first couple of weeks, it was fantastic. And of course the offset of cost was a huge driver there, and he has since rolled it out to his other location as well. So again, I think we would, I think it's important again to manage expectations. And so as you're having conversations with your various employees who would be having face-to-face discussions with the cardholder, talk through the various pushback, things that might be said, that type of thing. So again, they're prepared to have that conversation, and it's not just, hey, sorry, we're doing this, take it or leave it. I think, have those conversations. I think a lot of from the consumer side, I think, again, especially in the restaurant space, these last few years since COVID, I think there's just been a lot more understanding of this is the way that the industry is moving. But again, I think, you just got to have those conversations on the front end, manage expectations, and understand, yes, it might be rough for the first couple of weeks, but once you get through that, especially for your repeat customers, those conversations will be less and less.
Matt,
there was one other question in the chat on, the question says, how will you transparently communicate surcharge policies to customers, especially considering the informal setting of a home-based business? So in my head, though, if they don't have an option for coming in and paying alternatively, because we've touched on that various points, but I just want to make sure that you all don't have anything else to add on that question.
So if it's just a home-based business, they can still surcharge. That restriction is only if a merchant is charging a convenience fee.
Okay,
So,
that was the convenience fee.
Yep.
Okay.
So surcharge is okay. And again, for home, whether it's home-based business, a website, a phone order business, a brick and mortar, the key is that you have to be able to provide disclosure to the consumers so that they know you're surcharging well prior to the end checkout experience. So if you have it, if you're surcharging and you're worried about how they're going to how they're going to understand that they're going to be surcharged, put it everywhere and anywhere that you're interfacing with your clients.
And while we're talking about communication and transparency, it seems like one important part of that conversation is employee training.
Right.
And Matt, correct me if I'm wrong here, but if I'm putting myself in the shoes of a business owner and thinking about, you know, sort of what is the one thing for my employees to remember about this, being able to at least offer the debit card as a no fee option seems like maybe the one thing I would want my employees to remember, that if there really was a customer that was pushing back on the surcharge, to know that they had that, at least that option, that, you know, and most people are going to carry a debit card or checks or cash. So do you agree with that? Or is there anything else you would want to add from an employee training perspective as we're thinking about customer communication?
No, I think you nailed it. And I just had a conversation last week with a business owner, and he was saying, "Hey, Matt, I want to apply surcharge to everything, and I want to cover 100% of my costs." And so I think, I had that conversation with him. Well, hey, I know you're probably not excited to have to pay for debit card transactions, but at the same time, you got to look at it from the consumer perspective as well, right? The card holder, giving them an option to not have to be surcharged is going to make that conversation so much easier. So again, if you're in a position where you offer the ability for the customer to pay with cash, of course you can do that as well. But even if not, you can give them the option to, of course, pay with debit card if they don't want to be subject to that 3% surcharge. So I think you nailed it. I think that gives them the option. I think when we start, I think when you start forcing people to have to pay no matter what, I think that's a different, harder conversation to have. So giving them the option to pay with cash or debit is the route to go.
Several of my clients have asked me, is this going to lead me back into what I feel like is the previous century on cash? Have you had conversations with folks? I don't, from the ones who have implemented a surcharge, they have not had a significant decline in credit cards, debit cards, and suddenly because you can imagine, as the business owner, they don't want their servers wandering around with cash and going back to dealing with cash again. Can you give me some kind of input on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think Kori and I both have referenced this. We have not noticed any shift in the consumer behavior standpoint with regards to shifting to cash. A lot of people either don't carry cash on them. I don't personally. They want to get the points on their credit card program, et cetera. So we have not noticed any significant change. Again, there might be some here and there, and again, all of it's case by case, but across the board for our 30,000 clients, we have not noticed a huge consumer behavior shift with regards to moving over to cash.
Yeah, agree. I mean, I think that we're always going to see those few consumers that don't want to be surcharged. They put their foot down and say, I'm not paying it. So luckily, the merchant would have the ability to offer an alternative form of payment to avoid the fee. But, as Matt said, consumers, I think, we walk around with less cash in our pocket. We have the convenience of putting our credit cards on our phones now, Apple Pay, Google Pay. So most of us are reaping the benefits of points when we use our credit cards. And that's the thing that I think is really driving that we're not going to see a big shift in consumer behavior, because of the fact that, the credit card companies are really incenting to use credit cards and get the points. So, I think one of the things that I just want to point out is that surcharge has been around since 2013. It really, as Matt said, it really became popular, I think, in post-COVID months and years. And I think that we're seeing it more and more. So consumers are becoming, they're adapting to the new way things are happening, and we're just, it becomes second nature. I don't think that there's been a week that goes by that I don't purchase something that I don't see a surcharge out there. So it's becoming kind of the norm, which is good for merchants, because merchants now have the ability to recoup some of their, the very expensive credit card fees.
There was another question that came in. What is the difference between debit and credit cards that make debit cards excluded from surcharge?
Matt, you want me to take this?
Yes, please.
Okay, so the biggest difference, I think, is that this stems from federal law that was implemented back in 2013, and card brands have always identified very unique differences between credit and debit. Debit cards typically have a lower interchange price point, which makes it cheaper for a merchant to process that type of transaction. Really, the crux of the high credit card fees or card processing fees comes from credit card interchange. So I don't know that I'm really going to give a 100% solid answer here, but the biggest difference is really the fees that are driving the ability for debit cards to be excluded from surcharge. So, and it's not, I just want to make sure I point out, it's not a Fiserv decision to do that. That's a card brand rule. So really anybody in the industry should not be surcharging on debit cards. That is against card brand rules.
And I have one other question. If we're seeing, I'm seeing some businesses charging maybe more than 3%, maybe 4 or 5%. Is that a Fiserv interpretation decision, or could they be operating? Are they perhaps non-compliant, or is it, what's happening there?
So it's definitely a non-compliant situation. 4% is the federal cap, but as of April 15th of 2023, Visa implemented a 3% cap, which is, based on, it can't only be applied to Visa. So because merchants accept Visa, MasterCard, Discover, and American Express, the rules for all card brands state that not one card type can be discriminated against. So by default, inherently, if you're charging 3% on Visa, then you have to charge 3% on MasterCard, Discover, and Amex. You can't charge 3% on Visa and 0 on other card types. Or you can't charge 3% on Visa and 4% on Amex, Discover, and MasterCard. So inherently, it just, the card brand rules overlap, and they kind of guide one another. So because Visa set that cap, that applies to all card types. So 3% is the Visa card brand cap. So basically, if a merchant is not accepting Visa and they still want to surcharge, but I can never see that happening, then they could go up to 4%. But if they're accepting Visa, then 3% is the cap. So if a merchant is charging 4%, that would be non-compliant.
Well, I don't see any other questions in the chat. Do you have any, you guys have any other additional comments you want to add before we close?
The only thing I want to close with here, again, if anyone wants to have a conversation with us directly so we could talk about your particular situation, again, you're going to have our contact information here. I'm going to put it again in case anyone wants to write it down. But again, this will be shared. If we want to have that conversation one-on-one, obviously just reach out to myself, Mary Beth, or to Keaton. We want to be here, like I said earlier, as a resource to you for information, making sure that, if you have any other questions as it relates to your particular business, whether or not you process with us, we'll still be willing to have that conversation. So reach out anytime. You got my email here. You've got my phone number. I'll be more than happy to talk to you anytime.
Thank you so much, you guys, Matt, Keaton, Kori. We really appreciate everything you do for us and everything you do for these business owners. Thanks a lot, you guys. Come see us at ASBTDC, or if you have any questions or even anything outside of this particular webinar.
Thank you so much for hosting, Mary Beth.
Yes, thanks,
Absolutely.
Mary Beth. Appreciate it.